Royal.
To wrap you up in aluminum foil.
T-Royal Vision. Yes. Now control. This is how we do. You're sick. Chapter 12. Behold the Pale Horse, The Secret Government by William Cooper. Page 225. Programs were put into place to create a dependent, non-working element in our society. The government then began to remove these programs to force people into a criminal class that did not exist in the 50s and 60s. The government encouraged the manufacture and importation of military firearms for the criminals to use. This intended to foster a feeling of insecurity which would lead the American people to voluntarily disarm themselves by passing laws against firearms, using drugs, hypnosis on mental patients in a process called Orion. The CIA inculcated the desire in these people to open fire on schoolyards and thus inflame the anti-gun lobby. This plan is well underway and so far is working perfectly. The middle class is begging the government to do away with the Second Amendment. Now, this is William Cooper's note from his research that he did into this phenomena. Author's note. I have found that these events have indeed happened all over the country. In every instance that I have investigated, the incident at the women's school in Canada, the shopping center incident in Canada, the Stockton, California massacre, and the murder of Rabbi Meir Kahane. The shooters were all ex-mental patients or recurrent mental patients who were all on the drug Prozac. This drug, when taken in certain dosages, increases the serotonin level in the patient, causing extreme violence. Couple that with post-hypnotic suggestion or control through an electronic brain implant or microwave or ELF intrusion, and you get mass murder, ending in every case with the suicide of the perpetrator. Exhume the bodies of the murderers and check for a brain implant. I think you are going to be surprised in every case that the name of the murder's doctor or mental treatment facility has been withheld. I believe we will be able to establish intelligence community connections and or connections to known CIA experimental mind control programs when we finally discover who these doctors of death really are.
Kids with guns, taken over, but it won't be long. They're mesmerized, skeletons. Kids with guns, kids with guns. Easy does it, they got something to say. Drinking now, pacify, in the souls, street desire.
And today we'll be counting down 10 of the most infamous mass shootings in United States history. Number 10, the Geneva County Massacre. Michael Kenneth McClendon began his rampage by killing his mother and burning her home. He then murdered more family members and took off in his car, killing indiscriminately as he went. Following a police chase and shootout, he committed suicide, and while he left behind a list of people who had done him wrong, his reason for killing was never established. Number 9, the 2011 Tucson shooting. U.S. Representative Gabrielle Giffords and some constituents were gathered in a grocery store parking lot when Jared Lee Loughner pulled out his gun. Among those killed were a federal judge, one of Giffords' employees, and a 9-year-old girl. Giffords herself was also shot at point-blank range, and while she was initially listed as critical, she pulled through and made a truly inspiring recovery. Number 8. The Beltway Sniper Attacks. John Allen Muhammad and Lee Boyd Malvo taunted police and held Washington, D.C., Maryland, and Virginia hostage by randomly shooting unsuspecting citizens from long distances.
Nothing like this has ever happened in Montgomery County. This is a very safe community. Our homicide rate just increased by 25% in one day.
The pair was finally caught after intense news coverage 3 weeks later, and the rumored motive was Muhammad's anger at his ex-wife. While that was not proven, Muhammad was executed in 2009, and Malvo is serving 6 life sentences without the possibility of parole. Number 7. The Fort Hood Shooting. This Texas spree was the worst shooting ever on an American military base. The accused was Army psychiatrist Major Nidal Malik Hassan, whose apparent belief in radical Islam, suspected al-Qaeda ties, and alleged anger at the supposed war crimes of recently deployed soldiers he treated were tapped as possible motives. While he was paralyzed in the event, his trial was repeatedly delayed by his refusal to shave his beard based on religious beliefs. Number 6. Tower shooting at the University of Texas at Austin. After killing his wife and mother, former Marine Charles Whitman climbed the university's clock tower and inflicted almost 2 hours of panic upon the area by randomly shooting passers-by.
This is a KLRN News Bulletin. A sniper with a high-powered rifle has taken up a position on the observation deck of the tower on the campus of the University of Texas.
His reign of terror ended when he was shot by a cop, and during his autopsy, he was found to have a fatal brain tumor that might have been the cause of his rage. Number 5. San Isidro McDonald's Massacre. Police procedure was never the same once this Mexico border town was hit by the bloody rampage of a man who said he was hunting humans. James Oliver Huberty killed 22 people ranging from 8 months to 74 years old before he was downed by a sniper's bullet inside a McDonald's. Huberty's wife later unsuccessfully attempted to sue the restaurant chain by claiming their chicken McNuggets led to her husband's psychosis. Number 4. 2012 Aurora shooting. During a midnight premiere of The Dark Knight Rises, James Egan Holmes caused panic with tear gas and guns, killing 12 and injuring 58. Cops were on site within a minute and a half, and Holmes was apprehended soon after, but the damage was done. A gag order prevented his motive from being immediately made public, but rumors swirled that he referred to himself as the Joker. Number 3. Luby's Massacre. In the deadliest U.S. shooting before 2007, George Hennard drove through the window of a Killeen, Texas diner and opened fire. Anger towards women and frustration over losing his job might have been contributing factors, though his motive was never established. Survivor Susanna Hupp later lobbied heavily for concealed weapons laws as a member of the Texas House of Representatives, based on her experience that day.
I've been sitting here getting more and more fed up with all of this talk about these pieces of machinery having no legitimate sporting purpose, no legitimate hunting purpose. People, that is not the point of the Second Amendment.
Number 2. The Virginia Tech Massacre. Virginia Tech was a gun-free zone when South Korean national Sung Hee-cho began targeting what he called rich kids, debauchery, and deceitful charlatans with gunfire. Despite tales of teachers and students sacrificing themselves for others, this was still the deadliest shooting by a lone gunman in U.S. history, and it ended when the shooter took his own life. In the wake of this tragedy, school security countrywide increased. Number 1. The Columbine High School Massacre. Dylan Klebold and Eric Harris planned to use guns and homemade bombs to cause anarchy at their Littleton, Colorado school. The bombing failed, but Columbine was still one of the deadliest ever American school shootings. Images from that day continue to haunt us, and the massacre was blamed on bullying, violent movies and video games, goth culture,
We've been shot at Westside High School, middle school. Been what? We've been shot at Westside Middle School. Okay. We need an ambulance as soon as possible. Okay. Do you know who done the shooting? No, we do not.
8 out of the 13 school shooters around the country, 8 of them were taking prescription psychotropic drugs. Now you try to explain that these drugs don't create alterations in people's brains, making them capable of the unspeakable.
Unspeakable, yes, but the violence continues unabated. In Cleveland, Ohio, Asa Kuhn shot 4 teachers and students while under the influence of trazodone, an antidepressant, and clonidine, prescribed for ADHD. In October of 2007, Robert Hawkins killed 8 people at the Westroads Mall, with Valium in his bloodstream. This evidence of violence as a side effect of psychiatric medication should come as no surprise. When John Hinckley Jr. shot President Ronald Reagan in 1981, he did so, according to his attorney, while in a Valium-induced stupor. It begs the question as to whether the drug Prozac had a similar effect on Jeff Weiss when he shot 14 people in 2005. Weiss was taking Prozac when he created this prophetic storyboard, one which foretold how his own life would end. Clearly, Weiss was more troubled than most. But his animations are still emblematic of the dark and violent conclusions too many normal children have also reached, while under the chemical haze of these mind-altering, powerful drugs. Opportunity to set things right. Faced with thousands of suicides and serious adverse reactions to Prozac, consumer groups and others forced the agency to hold public hearings on the drug.
The topic for today's advisory committee meeting is the possibility of a causal linkage between the emergence and/or intensification of suicidal thoughts and acts, suicidality that is, and/or other violent behaviors, and the use of antidepressant drugs.
This video is all that remains from nearly 22 hours worth of public testimony about Prozac. It provides further proof that the risk of suicide and violence was well known to the FDA in 1991.
I was put on Prozac for weight loss since I'd had a baby the year before and I was having a hard time getting the stubborn pounds off. My father took Prozac. I think he started taking it around May of 1990. Lindsay's mother began taking Prozac in August of 1988. The doctor told me that this wonderful new drug Prozac would really get me through this rough time that I was having. Prozac, new on the market, seemed the perfect drug for me, or so said my doctor, because of the minimal side effects, namely weight loss.
I literally quote my physician, quote, Suzanne, sometimes patients lose 5% of their body weight, but then we can never be too rich or too thin, can we? End quote.
We trust our family doctors. My family doctor trusted Eli Lilly.
My first reaction came at 2 weeks. I remember sitting in the car, and I reached over and I grabbed my husband, and I said, I feel like I'm dying. I felt like I was leaving my body.
I took Prozac for exactly 11 days, during which time I experienced annoying and increasing dimness of vision, irritability, headaches, and tension. And only 3 days after being put on Prozac, I started having terrifying nightmares.
Fourth week, I had total loss of appetite, complete insomnia. Anxiety literally was pouring out my ears.
By the 14th day, I was experiencing such intensified fear that I could not stand to face life as it was for me anymore. I'd wake up screaming, and the nightmares always had something to do with death.
I immediately had severe headaches, violent thoughts in nature, which totally
against my character. I had never had violent thoughts before. I'm a pacifist.
Where suicide had never been a logical solution for any reason for me.
I took the 9mm automatic, sat down on the bed, and put the gun to my head.
I tried to commit suicide in front of my 5 children.
My wife shot and killed both of these 2 boys right here.
Took a 12-inch butcher knife and stabbed himself violently in the abdomen once, and then proceeded to do it twice. Thank God I was a lousy shot. I was a victim.